have a BA from Wesleyan University in English. I have a master's degree in reading and literacy from Harvard University. And I have a PhD in language and literacy from the University of California at Berkeley. So my background is primarily in early childhood, elementary education. I was a faculty brat in the 1960s at Stanford, so I grew up in the era of, I was a child then, but the Vietnam War and social justice and nonviolence and an interest in education. I think those have inspired me to become an educator, and they certainly are touchstones for me. Since I've been at San Francisco State, my interests have expanded. I work with local teachers on teaching teacher research and inquiry groups. I've worked in San Francisco and elsewhere in the Bay Area with groups of teachers for in-service professional development. I've also done some work internationally with teachers in China and Mexico, and I have a current project with a few Palestinian teacher educators who are working in East Jerusalem and the West Bank. So those are some of my current interests around international education. I'm very interested in working with doctoral students in the area of early childhood education and elementary education. And the courses I teach in my department are primarily around language and literacy, literacy development, early childhood education, international education. I teach a course on narrative inquiry and memoir, which is a course that I wrote. And I also work with students on their field studies. One morning a week, I work in a preschool program, a public preschool program in Berkeley. I also volunteered in elementary school, and for the last 3 years, I've volunteered as a writing tutor, a writing coach at Berkeley High School. So I try to keep my hand in local schools in order to see what's going on and what the changes are in education in terms of how they affect students and teachers. I've been on several dissertation committees, and I'm currently chairing one with a student who's a high school English teacher, and he's looking at the impact of Common Core on teaching practices, assessment, teacher agency, and teacher voice at the high school level, looking primarily at English teachers and mathematics teachers. And he's taking a narrative approach. He's interviewing, so he's going to compile portraits, create portraits of individual high school teachers and examine what are some of the critical factors in the implementation of Common Core at the high school level around assessment, around professional development. And then the other dissertations that I've worked on, I primarily help with qualitative research parts and the students' writing. I enjoy very much working hands-on with students on their dissertations around writing. I enjoy working with them in terms of organization and the structure of their dissertations and the style and the flow and finding appropriate resources and literature and helping them find some alternative formats. So primarily around narrative inquiry to create portraits of students and schools and teachers. I've enjoyed working with students who have an open mind to educational change and who have a sort of a healthy dose of skepticism and certainly have an intellectual bent and think hard about things and don't accept what's out there, for instance, in terms of doing a dissertation. Not to accept what the literature says and to mold the dissertation in order to back up and extend those ideas or those policies or those instructional strategies that you as a student are interested in promoting and pursuing. The longer I've been in education, which has been like about 35 years, the more I see that it's people who are going to make changes that are lasting and beneficial for students and for teachers and for families. And the more that I see the power of individuals seeing their own agency and their own voice as making a difference in education and not accepting things as the status quo. And I think that's one of the wonderful aspects of this particular doctoral program is that it does emphasize social justice and equity. And that's certainly a hallmark of the Bay Area and San Francisco, and it's something, especially now in the national news and internationally, is something that we need to hold on to and to pursue. So I think students who come to this program are lucky to have faculty and colleagues as students who are dedicated to promoting social justice and equity for students locally and also in the state of California and nationally.